Hello and welcome back to the SIPS tutorials. Today we have amazing NGC 2170 from Wolfgang Promper. This beautiful image was taken over 2 nights, taking roughly 5 hours 45 minutes using our premium C5 camera. As always, you can find more information in the description below, including a link to the original image with high resolution, so do check it out. The topic of today's video is the image acquisition in SIPS. We will cover the basic camera controls, how to take series, and in the end of the video there is going to be a sneak peek into the new capabilities of SIPS, which allows to create scripts to control literally the whole observing sequence. So let's dive straight into it. Today we will be mostly focusing on the imaging camera tool right here in the devices ribbon. So let's start with the camera selection. We click Select Imager. First thing to point out is there are 2 types of cameras in SIPS. First, there are plug-and-play cameras that use our USB drivers, which we simply connect to a computer and they are ready to use. And then there are non-plug-and-play cameras, for example, cameras connected over the Ethernet and ASCOM cameras as well. When SIPS is launched, it immediately enumerates the plug-and-play cameras and connects to the first one it finds. If you don't want SIPS to connect to the first camera it finds, we can select this checkbox right here, automatically connect to the selected camera only, and then SIPS will remember our decision and connect only to the camera we want. Just as a side note, for the purposes of this video, I enabled virtual cameras, so some details might be slightly different, and of course we are not going to get any real images in the examples, but this should be totally fine for purposes of this video. Now, these are cameras that were connected when the SIPS started. If we plug in camera afterwards, we need to manually enumerate, and we can do it with this button, a scan camera right here. Also, during the enumeration, all the cameras are unplugged, so if for some reason we need to disconnect the camera from SIPS, we can do it using this button again. There is one more thing I'd like to point out here, and it is that Moravian cameras have their own unique IDs connected with the serial numbers of the cameras, so I can have multiple cameras connected to the computer and I can always select the one I need for the task in mind. Let me select the C5, and now we have information about the camera name, ID, what sensor it is, resolution, filters, and so on and so on. Now, with the camera selected, let's go to the main tab, the exposure. First, we need to select the exposure type. We have light images, flat fields, dark frames for calibration, bias frames, which are nowadays mostly used for testing purposes, and then we also have the option to record a stream. Now you might be thinking, why are there different types for light images and flat fields? And that's because this right-hand side, which controls whether to open image, override image, potentially save it with a file name. These are unique for each individual type. So if I switch to flat, I can have a different name and different behavior. As a side note, when we switch to stream, the settings changes quite a lot. For cameras with different modes, I can select the mode here. So there's, for example, low noise and preview. For the camera that allows it, we can also select the gain, which is not possible now here for the virtual camera. As a note here, both Moravian cameras and SIPS do not allow for setting offset at the time of image acquisition. If needed, offset can be always added later. For example, in SIPS, scalar operations, image add, we can simply add a number to an image, but comparing images that were accidentally taken with different offset might lead to a lot of confusion. Next thing here, we have a filter selection. So this allows us to select filter for each individual image. This includes both the filters controlled directly by the camera or filters controlled separately. This is controlled by the filter tab right here. We can either use camera controlled filter wheel or we can use independent. Still, the filters are controlled right here. Next is the repeat. We can either set number of repeats to 5, 10, 50. We can specify repeat forever, or we can repeat until a specified day and time. When we say set repeat to forever, we can either stop current exposure right here, so we can stop it like this. But this also stops the current image. Alternatively, when we uncheck this button right here, the current exposure is finished and then the repetition stops. Let me close this. No. So then finally, cameras equipped with a IR diode for pre-flash that evens out the residual bulk image. We can set a pre-flash here and number of clears as well. I already mentioned this right side a little bit. Here we control what happens after image is taken. We can open it. When the image is open, we can set if we want to override the selected image window. This is useful, for example, for some testing, but we need to be really careful because this setting simply overrides the image, and if the data was not saved, it is lost and cannot be recovered. In the previous video, we also talked about lists. When I open a new list, the option is now available. I can add to the list. We can switch to dark frames, add dark frames to the list 1 second dark frames, and I can make, let's say, 3 dark frames right now. They are not opened because I don't need them. I need them only for the subsequent calibration, and I can make them in one go like this. 1, 2, and 3 right there, and I can open them, check them, close them, and then use them for subsequent calibration. Finally, there are settings for saving images. I click save, I specify name, folder, and then of course I can append date, time, ordinal number. I can select if I want to override existing files, and for light images I can of course append filter right here. Before we get to the series, let me quickly talk about the frame, which is where we can set up binning and set up a subframe to be read. So just to demonstrate, I'm not going to save this, not add it. Simply take one light frame, 1 second. Now the frame, I can specify the binning. I can modify the frame, so I might be interested, for example, only in this part. And then this is propagated right here. So if I take a new image, it's going to be only image of my sub-selection. Here I mentioned the repeat. If you want to create a series of more sophisticated repeats, for example, switching the filters periodically, I can set it. So first I set up type. I can either do light, dark, flat, or sub-series. So here I can select time, filter, so I can, for example, do red. Then I want to do green, and I want to do blue, one after another. Here I can specify the time individually for each one, binning, and then repeat. So I can do this when I want to take 10 red images, 10 green images, and 10 blue images. So this will take first 10 red images, then 10 green, and then 10 blue. If I want to specify a sequence where I take red, green, blue, and repeat that, I can click here, create a sub-series, hit enter, and do the same thing here. Light, red, green, and blue, and now I set count here, and this is the count for a whole sub-series. So this will do red, green, blue, and this whole thing 10 times. Now it is important to note that things that are not specified here, for example, whether to open them or save them, these are still controlled here from this exposure tab. So if I want to save these images, I need to have this checkbox on and probably specify append filter. When all looks good, I can start a series. And now it's telling me it's doing item 1 out of 5, which is this one, and doing 6 out of the 10 of the repeat count. Now after doing 10 red images, it's going to move on the green. I can of course stop it right here. When we find ourselves in a situation where we do the same series of images again and again, we can save this into a file, and then next time simply load it like this. While this is definitely a useful thing to have, it cannot fully automate the whole observing sequence. It can't control the camera temperature, can't control the dome, guiding, it can't flip the mount. For this we introduced the SIPS programming editor. Let me first clean everything. Yes, close this, no. Program editor is already included in the current version of SIPS and is fully functional, but the pre-made scripts to control the whole observing sequence are still under development, so take this a little bit as a preview of future SIPS capabilities, but it felt prudent to include this in this image acquisition video. And of course, a dedicated video or maybe even a series of such videos about programming in SIPS will come in the future. For now, for the demonstration purposes, I created this few line program that creates a new list, sets the camera here, initializes, sets temperature, sets exposure parameters, and then simply starts an exposure, waits for the exposure is ready, adds the image to a list, and then closes the image. So now it stays only in one open list. I can run the main procedure, I can set up the exposure time, temperature, and I ended up with this list with one image like this. As I mentioned before, the idea behind this, that in the near future we'll be able to fully automate everything using SIPS. And that's about it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. As always, if you want to be notified when new videos are out, subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions, send us an email to info@gxccd.com. Bye for now.